we've got, right-wing media engaging in, and you'll recall this phrase from back during the Bush administration, when I was using this phrase to describe what George W. Bush and Dick Cheney were doing with all their Muslim trashing. I called it stochastic terrorism. Now, and Chauncey DeVega has a great piece over at Salon right now. It's also on rawstory.com. The headline is Tucker Carlson prepares white nationalists for war. Don't ignore the power of his rhetoric. And Chauncey points out stochastic terrorism is the repeated use of language and other means of communication intended to encourage violence while still maintaining some level of plausible deniability. You claim innocence and accept no responsibility. And as he correctly points out, it's been one of the main strategies of the hard right in the United States since the 1980s. And the result of this is that hate crimes, and this is Trump was the master at this. Hate crimes against Jews, against Muslims, against immigrants, against minorities, against LGBTQ people, particularly trans people, have just exploded. And then last week on One America News, you had this host who comes on and says, how many people in these efforts to undermine the election? Hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands? How many people does it take to carry out a coup against the presidency? And he's openly alleging that the election was stolen from Donald Trump by, like, Republicans like Brad Raffensperger and Brian Kemp down in Georgia, right? And when all the dust settles from the audit in Arizona and the potential audits in Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Nevada, and Wisconsin, what happens to all those people who are responsible for overthrowing the election? What are the consequences for traitors who meddled with our secret democratic processes and tried to steal power by taking away the voices of the American people? I mean, this is stochastic terrorism. This is encouraging people. Well, here's where he gets to it. What happens to them? Well, in the past, America had a very good solution for dealing with such traitors: execution. Treason is considered the highest of all crimes and is the only crime defined in the U.S. Constitution, which states that anyone is guilty of treason if they support America's enemies. This isn't an implied threat. And then Tucker Carlson last night, he's going off on how do we save our country before we become Rwanda? Well, the Hutus and the Tutsis, that was, basically two ethnic groups. One ethnic group slaughtering another ethnic group. This is Tucker Carlson invoking the whole race war thing that Tim McVeigh tried to start, blowing up the federal building in Oklahoma City back in the 90s, as I recall. Tucker Carlson. And by the way, if it's a medical condition, at what age can you catch white rage? Most of us assumed our 2-year-olds were just teething. Now we know it's their whiteness that's making them so angry. Really? When you repeat over and over and you reinforce this, what you get is you activate terrorists. And they seem to be like, lone wolf terrorists, but no, they've been activated by this promotion of stochastic, of this particular type of terrorism. Politics should not be warfare. Politics should be about disagreements on policies or disagreements on words, like, the conservative caller at the very end of the last hour who was saying, basically, if I disagree with you on how we should fund the government, that doesn't make me unpatriotic. Okay, he may have a point. It's something we could debate, we could discuss. But it doesn't mean that we go to war with each other. And yet that's exactly what these guys are promoting.